Welcome to the Explainer. Have you ever stopped to think about exactly how far into the future large corporations actually look? In our everyday lives, planning 6 months ahead can feel like a major stretch. But in the pharmaceutical sector, long-term corporate forecasting is just a completely different ballgame. Today, we're going to explore this exact curiosity by putting a single, highly concentrated piece of news under the microscope.
So just how far ahead is Aurobindo looking? Well, before we reveal our specific subject, I want you to consider the massive time horizons that are practically standard in the pharma industry. We aren't talking about next quarter's earnings or some new product launching next spring. To build out infrastructure, navigate those intense regulatory hurdles, and bring advanced medical manufacturing online takes an astonishing amount of time. It demands a level of visionary patience that really defines the biggest players in the space. And that brings us directly to a rather striking piece of news regarding Aurobindo Pharma.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the exact headline from the Economic Times. Aurobindo eyes up to $200 million revenue from biologics manufacturing from 2032. It's just one sentence. But for this explainer, we're going to treat this single sentence as forensic evidence of corporate ambition. There is so much packed into those 13 words. It's essentially a condensed signal to the entire market about their strategic intent, their financial expectations, and their timeline.
Because our source is so highly concentrated, we're going to use a sort of magnifying glass technique to isolate and analyze 4 core components here: the company, the target, the sector, and the timeline. Let's decode exactly what Aurobindo is signaling to the market.
All right, variable 1, the financial target. Aurobindo hasn't just vaguely said they're expanding. No, they've planted a very specific financial flag right in the ground. $200 million. That number alone emphasizes the sheer scale and weight of this projection. A $200 million revenue stream isn't some little side project. It's a massive, core strategic pillar. By throwing this number out into the public domain, the company is demonstrating profound confidence in their future operational capacity. It's basically telling investors that the capital expenditures they're making today are geared toward generating a highly substantial 9-figure return down the line.
But pay close attention to the precise phrasing here. Up to $200 million. This is honestly a masterclass in managing investor expectations. The phrase up to establishes a ceiling. They're dangling a very attractive, large number, sure, but by framing it as a maximum potential, they give themselves a critical safety net. Think about it. If they hit $150 million, it's still a massive success, and technically falls right within the parameters of their original guidance. It's a really bold yet highly calculated move. Moving on to variable 2. The manufacturing angle. So we have this massive number, but where exactly is it coming from? Understanding this specific avenue is absolutely vital to grasping the company's broader strategic pivot.
The headline specifies biologics manufacturing. Now, for those who might not live and breathe pharma every single day, biologics represent a highly specific, incredibly complex, and specialized niche within the broader landscape. Unlike your traditional chemical drugs, biologics are isolated from natural sources, things like human, animal, or microorganisms. Manufacturing them is no joke. It requires cutting-edge, completely sterile facilities and some serious biotechnological expertise. We're talking significantly higher investment and technical know-how than traditional drug manufacturing.
And this brilliantly illustrates the strategic shift happening here. Notice the stark contrast between Aurobindo's general pharmaceutical operations and this laser-focused pivot into the biologics niche. By targeting biologics, they're signaling a decisive move toward higher value, high barrier to entry medicine. They're essentially identifying where the future of medicine is heading and explicitly aligning their long-term manufacturing capacity to meet that specific demand.
Now, what's really interesting about this next piece is the when. Variable 3 is the time horizon. We know the amount, we know the sector, but the timeline attached to this goal is what makes it such an extraordinary piece of long-term forecasting. Notice the massive 6-year gap between today's initial commitment and their target year of 2032. This represents the sheer number of years required to secure capital, build those specialized sterile facilities, and clear a mountain of regulatory hurdles before a single dollar is actually made.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that tiny word from 2032. You see, 2032 isn't the finish line of the goal, it's the starting line. They aren't saying they'll spend up until 2032 and then close up shop. No, that is the year this massive biologics engine finally gets turned on and starts pumping out up to $200 million in revenue. It represents the tipping point where years of intensive capital investment finally transform into actual cash flow.
Which brings us to variable 4, the big picture. When you begin to pull back from the microanalysis of individual words and stitch these isolated variables together, you no longer just have a headline. You're looking at a unified corporate manifesto.
To realize this bold claim requires a grueling, multi-year marathon. Step 1, commit vast resources today. Step 2, flawlessly build capacity all the way through to 2032. And Step 3, generate that target revenue by capturing the necessary market share.
Let's do a rapid-fire capstone summary to bring all these isolated variables back together into one cohesive takeaway. Who is making the move? Aurobindo. What is the highly specialized focus? Biologics manufacturing. How much are they projecting to capture? Up to $200 million. And when does this specific revenue stream activate? From 2032. It's just 13 words in a headline, but it elegantly communicates a massive, multi-year strategic undertaking.
So what does this all mean? Why should you care about this single headline? Well, it matters intensely to pharmaceutical investors and analysts because it reveals the structural foundation of the company's future value. When analysts read a data point like this, they immediately begin updating their long-term financial models. They start calculating projected capital expenditures against this future revenue stream. It provides a crystal-clear window into leadership's confidence, showing exactly where they believe the industry is heading and, more importantly, exactly how they plan to profit from it.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If a company is already staking bold financial claims on the year 2032, what does that say about the breakneck pace of the pharma industry today? It tells us that the future is being aggressively built right now. And if you're only looking at what a company is doing this year, well, you're already entirely left behind. Keep your eyes on the horizon. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.